Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, coming to you from our socially distant studios. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I can't talk today. Our socially distant studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. Illinois is the blue nation in the middle of an oasis of red. And here we are, Marie.
Absolutely.
You can find all of our previous episodes at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com, bringing you the news and views of the progressive generation. So, Marie, what are we talking about today?
You know, we need to talk about misogyny.
Again?
Heidi and I have done a couple of different... Yeah, again. And we are going to talk about misogyny.
Yeah.
Every month or every 2 weeks until we are no longer driven by a patriarchal society, right? I'm serious.
Will I live long
up.
enough, Marie? I'm just worried here. I'm just worried here. I don't know.
I don't know, and I don't think so, but I think our kids may actually be able to live in a society that isn't like that. But Heidi, women are equal. But Heidi, women have the same rights.
No, we don't.
What do you mean there's misogyny?
Really? Really, Marie?
Oh, my bear! You gotta scratch my balls.
Yeah. Make sure I'm relevant today. You know, the thing is, men, and I know there's some men that are tuning in, it's not that you're irrelevant. We just want to make sure that you and I, us women and men, breathe the same oxygen. We're on the same planet. We're all rowing this boat together. And we deserve to be treated the same.
We deserve to be sentient beings.
Yes.
Viewed as under the same status, the same requirements, the same
rate of
expectations
pay
that are held for anyone else.
Right.
And so I want to hit, before we go on, we've got a great solution for this, but, you know, it comes to the forefront. Every day we face misogyny. Heidi and I are working on a story about some young girls who have been assaulted. We have talked to legislators who are belittled. 2 weeks ago, we saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez be called some pretty heinous language that's pejorative.
Yes.
And then we just had Kamala Harris is now our vice president, and the attacks on women have ramped up violently.
You know, I wore a shirt during the 2016 campaign that said "Nasty Women Vote." I'm not sure. I mean, Mary Trump's book details why Trump calls women nasty, and those are women he cannot control or cannot get over on or cannot get ahead of, cannot get past, cannot get the respect of, cannot demean. And he's trying to demean an attorney, a public official, a lawmaker, a rule maker, a person who has stood toe-to-toe with us all of her life. All of her life.
I want to drop something in here that you said. He's demeaning her.
Yes.
And this is something that happens quite often. It's not necessarily blatant. Sometimes it is with him.
Right.
We'll go into that a little more later.
Oh no,
but it's every word he uses diminishes. The language she chooses diminishes who she is, diminishes her validity because she is a woman. And that happens in our society so many times, and we're not even aware of it.
Right.
It's very similar to, you know, the understanding Black culture, understanding different cultures. We still fall into that sort of separate entity because the entire world was designed and created by white European men. So even the color blue is the color blue because of a white guy. You know, we need to look at that and start to understand that there are subtleties that are very damaging. So I posted, yay, Kamala Harris, and someone responded, yeah, Joe can hide behind her skirt. And I was like, that's really misogynistic. I mean, that's really rude. What's wrong with you?
Right.
And then he tried to justify it with another saying that demeaned women. And it's all these little things on top of the stickers we've seen. Joe in the Hoe. One that threw me off my board was Heels Up Harris. And you wouldn't get that. When have you ever seen a male candidate be attached to those labels? Be demeaned
Never.
in that way? Have you ever seen a male
Never.
candidate be treated that way?
Well, we certainly wouldn't want to see Trump heels up. That's for damn sure. I just, oh God, I got that vision in my mind. Oh. But Murray, we've seen this over and over again. We've seen the misogyny. We've seen it in our own state, how misogyny, sexual harassment is not handled, not validated, not addressed as a real issue. It's endemic to our society. It's endemic to white colonialism. It's endemic to the white male patriarchy that you and I have both had to live with our entire lives, that my daughter has to live with. And I hate that it's generational and it's continuing on. And I thought that when the Supreme Court ruled on same-sex marriage, I really thought, well, now they have to understand that women are sentient beings. We have to go there. Because if two people of the same sex can marry, we forgot a step in between. That's women are equal to men. But yet we're still not going there.
That step a long time ago. I mean, look at it this way. We're not even equal in the eyes of the law. We're not equal in the pay gap. We are not equal in controlling our own bodies.
No.
Women are not considered sentient beings.
We are things.
This year marks the 100th anniversary that we've had the right to vote.
Right.
And that in the span of the history of the United States is not even 50% of since we've been in existence we had the right to vote. And that was long fought and hard fought to earn that. And so we look at it, and when you have all of these layers, these subtle layers, such as the pejorative words, the use of pussy and wuss, and the use of demeaning men by calling them terms for women, and those are the lighter examples. You move into regulating women's bodies by what they can wear. We're going to be doing a show upcoming soon, and talking about schools and sexual harassment and sexual assault. And one of those young ladies who's amazing, who we're going to have on the show, was telling us that there's a particular principal who will send girls home for dress code violations. Shorts are too short. Shirts are too short. Off the shoulder is too off the shoulder. The strap is too skinny. So here's a principal regulating a woman's body in all these ways, and yet she tolerates the male behavior.
That to me smacks of, Murray, when I send my daughter out, and give her a can of pepper spray and teach her how to keep her keys between her fingers just in case. Now, my daughter's almost 6 feet tall. She will take you out. However, it shouldn't be that my daughter has to protect herself from being sexually assaulted. It's men that need to be taught, boys that need to be taught, that you do not rape, you do not sexually harass, and you do not treat women as objects. It's not that hard.
For those of you who don't know, I have a 17-year-old son, and he's very progressive, and he's really amazing. And I will tell you that he said to me about 3 weeks ago, he said, "Mom, why is it that we teach girls how not to get raped, but we don't teach boys not to rape?" I said, "I can never remember anywhere other than you and Dad teaching me respect that I hear about how not to assault someone."
Oh,
and when you're hearing that from a 17-year-old, they understand there needs to be change.
Right.
They're not going to see it unless we make that change.
I see that all the time. Just put her up against the wall. She'll settle down. She's going to learn to like it. I think about how rape is discussed, especially amongst the Republican Party, just sit back and enjoy it. It must have been what you were wearing. It must have been, God has a way of shutting a woman's body down if it's a for real rape. Are you serious? Are you frickin' serious? This is the culture that every female has to deal with. You are
and then put on top of that, not just the concern and the culture, the over-sexualized and poor Madonna complex like we've talked about so many times, but put on top of all of that the everyday demeaning of women through common language, through common words, through phrases,
yes,
through things that have been turned and twisted over time. And not to mention lower access to funding for small businesses, less help for less connections. Like, there are so many barriers that are in place. And then when you compile all the daily barriers pushing on women, and you compile the threat of violence, the threat of assault, the sexual harassment,
yes,
the sexualization of women, because we're not seen as human beings.
No.
We're seen as vaginas. We're either vaginas that have babies or vaginas that fuck.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all we are in not in men's minds. Guys, I'm not saying you think of women this way, okay? I am absolutely not saying that. What I'm saying is, societally, culturally in the United States, we're not valued.
We hand little
And
girls.
that doesn't mean that you individually don't think we're great, but it means we need you to fight for us, to help move this forward.
Don't give your girls a Barbie doll and expect her to have a normal body image. Expect her to respect her body. She can't, because you've given her something that's highly sexualized. And my daughter had.
Don't create double standards.
Yeah.
Don't have your daughter be, your son is able to stay out past a certain time, but your daughter can't. Or your son can date before your daughter can.
And I had a parent tell me it's because she can come home pregnant. Well, he can create a pregnancy. That ship goes both ways, honey. It goes both ways.
Absolutely. Again, the responsibility, society, the government, law places responsibility on the woman.
Yeah.
Having the child, getting pregnant. The responsibility and accountability is never put on the guy. So again, that's another societal layer.
Yes. It's another societal layer. And, I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day who got pregnant when she was still in high school. And her mother said, "It's not that I don't love you, you just made a bad choice," as she was allowed to grab whatever she could in her hands and then was dropped off at in front of her boyfriend's house, whose parents didn't know she was pregnant. And they did not have the same philosophy of kicking him out because he created a pregnancy. And she said, like 5 years later, my brother got a girl pregnant and my parents let him stay home. Why me? Why am I the problem? I don't understand when we tell women you can't have an abortion, you can't take birth control pills, you can't have multiple sexual partners. Why, if we're going to tell them that, why do we expect it to be any different? You are a whore or you're a Madonna. It's all your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. And women are told that all the time. All the time. And it's painful to hear. So.
And now we're looking at more women in Congress, more women in positions, in legislative positions in general.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this play out, like we mentioned with the squad, the fear of a strong woman.
And 4 of them together?
Terrifying.
Oh.
Yeah, and any woman who defies the status quo idea of a woman becomes a threat.
Right.
We have women in power, we have strong women speaking out, and that makes the patriarchy much more afraid.
Well,
and so as they get more insecure, more attacks begin.
Right.
And Trump absolutely despises
women.
Smart
strong
women.
Yeah. Outspoken. That don't look at him as a sexual partner. They don't want him. I mean, who'd want that? But that's how he looks at women.
See, and I have a little bit different take on it. Mm-hmm. I think the reason that it's not an attraction, yes, of course, if they're not attracted to him, he hates them.
Right.
But I think it's even a little bit deeper than that. And it's that he doesn't think he can control them.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's so much about sex for him as it is control.
It's control.
I think he equates women with weakness.
Yep.
We've seen it happen with his administration. The first doctor who came out and said this is a big deal, I called my school superintendent and said, what the hell's going on? How are you going to protect us from this? And she was fired.
Yes.
There was another woman who was in the first conference. She was fired. He kept Dr. Brick.
Because she's so matronly. And she wears a great scarf.
And she's soft-spoken and demure.
Demure, very demure.
And that's how
and she defers,
he likes...
She defers to him all the time. She defers to him, even when he's saying injecting bleach and cleaner and Lysol, and she defers to him. Are you out of your frickin' mind? You're setting women back a millennium, you know? I mean, I just don't understand her.
Connection. You made a great point. There might be a connection between his sexualizing of women and his tolerance level. So if you look at Hope Hicks, you look at Kaylee, you look at Barbie Conway, you know, if you look at the women who are still in his cabinet and still around, they fit a mold, a type
yes.
that I think he finds attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And those women get a little more leeway to say things that may contradict him or to... But those other women that either stand up to him from the beginning or he doesn't find attractive instantaneously get relegated to the side. I think you've probably got something there.
Well, and he just let his campaign manager go because he was dating Hope Hicks, right? He can't have her. I mean, she's a child compared to him. And so if he can't have her, he doesn't want anybody to have her, so he fired his campaign manager. That's how shallow and frail his male ego is. And then you have, you know, and here's, I want to go down a different path here. There's this forced celibacy concept where we have certain men of the Republican persuasion that can't seem to get a date or have sex with somebody, okay? So they become...
Unless they pay for it?
Unless they pay for it. And
which, by the way, sex workers should be treated as gig employees and not criminalized. But I'm just saying.
Well, and that's another way to control women, right? Because men normally are not in that trade. I mean, some are, but it's mostly women. And the problem with this is that then violence against women surfaces, and women are in danger and in jeopardy. We've had mass shootings done by people who are forced celibates or whatever you call it, and it's because women are so demeaned and hypersexualized and not respected and not created or not dealt with as equal or on the same level and not sentient, that they feel that it should be demanding, that if you're not an 8 to a 10 and on your knees begging to please, that you're not worthy, so you must be murdered, right? So we see this over and over and over again.
Or if something bad happens to you, it's your fault. You did something to bring it on.
It's your fault because you didn't have sex with him, you wouldn't date him, you swiped left or right or whatever, you swiped the wrong way on his picture. And I actually know a couple young men that left the Democratic Party and went to the Republican Party, and part of it was because they couldn't get a date. Well, we're Democrats, we should be able to get dates. No, that doesn't get you dating. Being dateable gets you dating. What is dateable? Be a decent person. Don't be a dick.
How about not being a dick?
Don't be a dick.
You know, we got a real good solution for it eventually. But, you know, as we're talking about this, we have to prepare ourselves.
Yeah.
Guys, you're going to have to step up and really become allies in ways you maybe didn't have to before. My son made a TikTok about, guys scamming on girls, and it was pointing out that guys are stupid, and it was amazing the response it generated, and it generated a lot of hate too.
Yeah.
And so you have to be willing to take some of that heat, because women are going to keep coming. We're going to get stronger. The more people see the equality of women to men, the farther along we are going to go.
Well,
and so we are here.
Yeah.
You need to help us get farther.
There are more women in this country, in the United States, than there are men by several percentage points. So we are the super majority now. And now is the time for us to get things done. But it doesn't mean that we want to disrespect men or that we don't consider them to be our partners, our lovers, our spouses, the fathers for our children. That has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with a fair market share. You know, if I'm this invested in raising the children, you should be too. If I'm this invested in, you know, taking care of the household,
Equality.
you should be too. And we both live in this house, everybody should be helping out or whatever, financially and physically. But I think it's just how women have been put into these roles that just were made for them. Were made up for them, I should say. And I wanted to finish my... The one young man I talked to was from Nebraska that left the party to become part of the other party. And he told me, he said, because in the Republican Party, women are more submissive. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him and I said, that doesn't make you dateable.
There was just an article written
nice young man.
in Vox or The Atlantic that talked about the price that women face for changing their conservative views, particularly Southern women.
Yeah.
Because of when Heidi and I, we've talked about this so much, about the lack of progressive message, about the isolation of communities, about how that perpetuates the stereotypes and hatreds for different cultures, different colors, different races,
Intolerance.
Right. It's a lack of exposure and understanding. And this article was talking about women who stood up to the town that they lived in by advocating for a Democratic candidate, by saying, I'm not going to support Trump, by saying what he did is wrong, by standing up for things that the men weren't standing up for.
Right.
And in doing that, these women became pariahs, not just socially, church-wise, work-wise, because you're breaking out of cultural norm.
You're breaking the mold.
Our population has this norm.
She is breaking the mold that was cast for her by a man. She's breaking the mold. And the patriarchy doesn't want to give it up. You know, they don't want to give this up. This is...
Because they're afraid. Everything is changing and they won't have control.
And, you know, you and I are married to a couple of super guys that are just... They're okay with it. They realize that their wives are just as committed to the relationship, committed to forward thought, committed to politics, committed to buying that car.
And you two have raised a son who is an amazing young man without these preconceived notions. Right. And, you know, Chris is phenomenal. And I'm hoping to raise my own 3
Well,
that
thank
way.
you for saying that. I'm rather partial to him, but...
He is a great kid. Yeah. But he's a 30-something-year-old man who has his own house, his own business, you know, all of these really great qualities, and he respects women immensely, and he doesn't view them as sexual beings.
No.
That's not saying you can't find someone attractive. We're not saying that. We're saying don't view every woman as just an object.
Right. I
don't view women as objects.
No.
Straight up.
They're just, you know, he's always seen me work, and he's seen me work in a male-dominated field, and he's seen me kick ass and take names all of his life. And it's just, well, that's just what mom does. You know, mom's a horse trainer, and she's gonna deal, and she's gonna beat you. And that's because I put the hard work in. So when he sees women work, and my mother worked, she had a master's degree and was an RN. His other grandma worked, she had a bachelor's degree, and she was in charge of restitution for DuPage County. So she was a fierce, strong woman, you know, just a wonderful person. And
yet we all know these really amazing,
they surround you. They surround
you.
They raise you.
Even these guys, yes, we know they're here and we've seen them. So why is it's so hard to see women as equals, as intelligent, as sentient. We all know these amazing women. They're
Yes.
everyday women. They don't have to be presidents.
You came out of her.
And
She made
yet
you
we
cookies.
still do this to other women.
Right.
It's one of the great mysteries of the world. And we're only going to see more and more and more coming, which is why our title of our show is Misogyny Tsunami.
Yeah.
Tsunami of Misogyny.
It's
Because-
coming. It's going to wash over us. We've got 80-something days where this is just, the shit is going to hit the fan. And it's going to be, you know, she's too unpredictable. She's a woman. She's moody. I mean, you know, she's nasty. She's a, well,
And what's
here's
even
what they
worse
say.
than that
Yeah.
is those unstable folks who believe the rhetoric that comes out from their favorite pundits.
I know.
That reinforces the idea that we're not human, and they get keyed up, and
Yep.
they go out and attack women.
Yes.
You know, not necessarily all of them, but they attack them online. They attack them because they can't get a date. You know, they blame everything on women. And so we have to be prepared, not just from the top,
Another
from Trump and Republicans,
yeah.
but also from Joe and Bob down the block. That
Yep.
the more threatened they become.
I have a feeling they'll be hanging out at
more-
all the gun stores for the next 80-something days. And I don't know why women scare you so bad that you think you have to be armed and dangerous.
The vagina. We've talked about this. It's fear of the vagina. The vagina is a powerful tool.
Yes.
We're afraid of it.
I don't understand, Murray. I just can't wrap my head around. And you know, I've heard some of the derogatory nicknames that Senator Harris has been given, and certainly I'm no stranger to calling our current president Orange Caligula. That's what I've called him since before he was elected. And to me, he is just an abomination of humanity. And that was even before he was running for office, because I had knew things, had read things about him in the past, and his, his misogyny just was overwhelming when I first read about it when I was probably 20 years old. I'm like, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? Well, apparently he thinks he's a president. So I understand the goofy nicknames, but she hasn't done anything like he has done to earn that type of misogyny. She hasn't done anything like he has. He hasn't grabbed she hasn't grabbed anybody by the pussy. She has not sexually assaulted and raped a woman in a dressing room at a store. She hasn't gone with Jeffrey Epstein somewhere to rape girls. All of those things are working their way through the court system, and he is tremendous at slowing the process of justice. And did you hear what the mayor did today, Cuomo?
No.
Oh, yeah. Well, they no longer have a double jeopardy law for pardons in the state of New York. So even a presidential pardon will not be upheld in the state of New York.
Oh, that's a delightful little piece of news.
My
amidst
husband,
the web of misogyny.
Yes.
What a delightful little tweet.
My husband sent me that tweet, and he's like, you have to see this. And then he came out to the studio when you were off, and he read it out loud to me. He goes, you just have to know, it's so great. I'm like, that's why I married you, honey. Because you know what's important.
That is phenomenal. Hands down, kind of awesome.
Well, you know what?
So,
yeah, this is how this presidency is going to end. And whatever happens November 3rd, it's going to be a super shitstorm as he decides to just golf every damn day and not do any part of his job. Maybe he's just been pretending to do a job, for 4 years now. So,
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to wrap up for today's episode. But remember, before you share something that you think is funny, think about how it affects people. Remember that we are going to start getting so many attacks on every woman's character, not just the leaders, not just from above. Yeah. They're going to stir up those folks that want to cling to this image that doesn't exist. So women, be ready for it. Men,
Remember,
help
men,
us out.
these are your mothers, your aunts, your uncles, your children, your spouse, and that brush paints them as well. This is a huge march forward for women. Don't deny the people you love this change,
That opportunity.
because this opportunity will make more opportunities for the women in your life and the women that are generations unborn yet. So you have to remember that this is a really special time for us, as was 2016. It was momentous. Don't take that away to have a good old boy moment.
Don't make light of it.
Yeah.
Don't focus on her shoes or her outfit or the fact that she was mean to Brett Kavanaugh. Think of her as the same way that
Every woman wants to be mean to Brett Kavanaugh. Every woman wants to be mean to Brett Kavanaugh. Every woman.
Yeah. Well, no, not Susan Collins.
Well, no.
He doesn't want to be mean. All right, folks. Well, thanks again. Thank you for tuning in. We've got some great shows coming up. We're going to be doing a couple of specials about women and local misogyny and how it affects everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be doing a candidate series. We just spoke with Paul Stoddard for state representative in Illinois 70th District, and that'll be launched soon. So please like, subscribe, share. The only way we can do this is if you get our message to other people, because our message is kind of cool.
Yeah. So if you're a candidate, reach out. We want to talk to you. We're also still looking for a few more sponsors. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Find us at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS, for all of our previous work, every podcast platform, as well as on Twitter, YouTube, if you want to see our goofy faces, and probably part of the Demcast network. So thank you, everybody. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.